just because your husband can afford to pay your bills is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. And guys, I understand the fact that we cannot all of us fit in white collars job. I fully understand that. But the fact that you're not going to get a white collar job, also is not a ticket for you to just decide to be a housewife. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. That's not an enough reason for you to decide to be a housewife, because tomorrow is never promised. Like, you don't know what will happen tomorrow to your husband. Hey guys, so recently, as I was doing my normal research about Kenyan economy, about Kenyan currency, inflation rates, interest rates, and generally about Kenyan economic outlook, I happened to land on this disturbing data. Allow me to call it disturbing data because honestly, I never expected to have such kind of a data. I happened to land on data about mortality rates, and not only mortality rate in Kenya, but mortality rate in the entire world. I think it was mortality rate for the year 2023. Yeah, guys, I happened to land on this data, and allow me to call it disturbing because after analyzing it, I found out something to me which was a bit crazy. Guys, according to mortality rate, I don't know how true the data is. Maybe I don't know how true the data is. Honestly, I don't know that. But if that data was true, apparently mortality rate in men is higher than mortality rate in women. And actually, it was not only mortality rate for the year 2023. Apparently, even after going backwards, I happened to find out that mortality rate in men is normally higher compared to mortality rate in women. And guys, after I found out that data, I just thought to myself that, you know what, our men normally put themselves at a risk because maybe of the nature of jobs, because of the nature of whatever they indulge in. And that's the reason why they end up dying earlier compared to women. But apparently, that's not the case because after I analyzed the entire data, like the mortality rate in men, regardless of their age, is normally higher. And honestly, I don't know the reason why. Maybe the medics or the people of doing medicine, they can just comment in the comment section and tell us if there is any scientific reason explaining the reason why mortality rate in men is normally higher, because I honestly don't know why. And um, after I found out that data, it hit my head that maybe that's the reason why we have so many initiatives, especially in Kenya. I don't know about the other countries, maybe in a East African country or maybe other nations, but in Kenya we have so many initiatives meant to help widows, like women who have lost their husbands. There is just so many initiatives, and I don't know, but as for me, I have never heard of any initiative meant to help men who have lost their wives, like widowers. I have never heard of such initiative. But come to think of it, majority of men, when they lose their wives, well, or rather when their wife dies, they end up remarrying like within a blink of an eye. Let's just be honest. That's what normally happens. But what happened to our women? Our women, most of the time, when they lose their husbands, uh, especially if a woman had if she have maybe kids, more than 3 kids, most of the time those women decide like never to remarry. I don't know the reason why. Maybe they don't get like a sweeter, or maybe I don't know the reason why, or maybe they just decide to stick alone because there is no one who can just come and raise their kids. So majority of men, once their wife dies, they just remarry within a blink of an eye, regardless of their age. Like we've seen so many men who have decided to remarry even after 50 years and above. But for women, even at the age of 30, majority of them, not all of them, majority of them, when they lose their husbands, they decide never to remarry. And that's the reason why we just have so many widows and not so many widowers. And also the fact that many men dies okay, I don't want that sounds so rude. And the fact that mortality rate in men is higher, that also explain the reason why we just have so many women who are just widows. But that was not the issue why I decided to do this video. Guys, I don't know. But apparently, most of women, married women in Kenya, they are housewives, for lack of better words. And when I say they are housewife, I mean that they are- they they are not doing anything to bring a living on the table. Like they are just so busy doing the entire everything in the house, like cooking, washing, just making the husbands happy, like just doing everything in the house. But majority of them, they don't bring something on the table. And guys, please don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that that's bad, and I'm not here to say that our husbands cannot afford us. But guys, after I analyzed that, and after it hit my mind that there are so many widows seeking for our help to be assisted, it hit my mind that there is a high need for our women to be empowered, like at every single cost. There is a very high need to empower our women. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that it's high time we empower our women because, you know what, our husbands are going to die very soon, and so it's high time that for us to be empowered. No, I'm not saying that. And also, I'm not here to say that our women should be empowered because our husbands cannot afford them. No, I'm not here to say that. And also, I'm not here to go against any African culture because according to African culture, um, women is kind of are supposed to be working at home. I don't know, and I don't want to even believe that bullshit. Guys, there is a very high need to empower our women. Um, Women play a very huge role in our families, and um, guys, when I was being raised up, like when I was growing up, my mom happened to be a housewife. And I'm not here to say to say nothing against her, because if there was a perfect mom that have ever lived, my mom, I can just say like she's a perfect woman. Like my mom is so hardworking, up to date. Like my mom is that woman who can build fence, who can do anything electronics. My mom can just do literally everything. And sometimes I just feel like my mom is like a man dressed in a woman clothing. And my mom, regardless of how hardworking she is, she was a housewife. Like for the entire of her life, most of her life as a married woman, she has been a housewife. And I'm not here to say that my dad did something wrong. Maybe they had their own reasons as to why they did that. But when we were growing up, it's not like we had so many problems. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that my dad was not affording us, but we happened to have some issues, like just small money issues, just like many families here in Kenya, or rather in Africa. And all this time, my mom was a housewife. And I'm not here to say that they did something wrong, but that made me to ask myself, what if my mom was somewhere employed, or what if my mom was empowered to do something to earn a living? Most probably, or not even most probably, 100% sure, whatever we went through, it could have been relatively easier. The life could have been somehow affordable. And that's the reason why I'm here, guys. Life was somehow different from current life, because during our time of our mothers, even if you were to be a housewife, that only meant that you can work in the garden, you can work in the shamba, you can go cultivate and do your like you can cultivate the bogas, the vegetables, the grains, and at the end of the day, as much as you are called a housewife, as much as you are called like you are not this career woman, you are doing something productive to bring a meal on the table. But what is happening in our current situation? Our current situation, especially in towns, I want to talk about towns because that's where I can relate well. Majority of women who are married in town and who end up just being a housewife, uh, they really lend a helping hand to their husbands. And when I mean a helping hand, I mean, financial helping hand. I'm not here to talk about how they wash their clothes, how they cook well, how they give birth. I'm not here to talk about that. And guys, hopefully I'm not sounding rude because I'm saying this as a woman. And I feel like there is a high need to empower our women and not just to leave them to be housewives. Because as much as majority of our husbands can afford our lives, like our husbands can afford to pay our rent, can afford to pay for our nails, can afford to pay for our hair, to pay for the school fees. As much as our husbands can do that, tomorrow is never promised. Honestly, tomorrow is never promised, and we don't want to have the fact to the data of the widows who are just being left behind, seeking for help because basically they can't afford to raise a family because their husband, who was a breadwinner, has died. We don't want that trend to keep on, like the trend at it to keep on increasing. And I feel it's high time for us to do something. Guys, I was once in a marriage setup, and I remember I had my papers before I even go to marriage that marriage setup. I had my papers, like I was a graduate, I had my CPAs, like I was fully equipped to be a career woman. But once I got married, um, it's kind of I put my career aside, and I became a housewife with no saying, like. And I want to believe that is the situation with many of our women because as much as we keep on singing the song that, oh, we need to empower our women, we know we need to empower our women, like currently each and every organization just makes sure that it's empowering the women. Like each and every career, they are normally accepting women. And nowadays it's not like back then when women they were not taken to school. Nowadays women are being taken to school. Nowadays each and every organization, it ensures that it has gender equality. Nowadays gender equality has been like song of the day. But what happens when a woman decides to get married? What happens to majority of women, those career women? I'm just here to talk about career women. What happens to those career women once they decide to get married? Majority of women, once they decide to get married, they leave many things aside. Like they just leave so many things aside. And I'm not here to talk about their friends that they leave behind. I'm not here to talk about their life, maybe their partying life, their fun life they used to have. I'm not here to talk about that. But I'm here to speak about that career woman who was once so much focused. When she was schooling, she was so much focused. She wanted to be doctor, she wanted to be accountant, she wanted to be a teacher, she wanted to be this big thing. But once she decided to get in a marriage setup, everything all of a sudden just changes. She just decides to become so comfortable. And guys, please don't get me wrong, I'm talking this out of experience because I was once there. Because I remember once I was in that marriage setup, as much as I had my papers, I had my good clean papers, with good grades, with just papers that could sell me, I decided to just be a housewife, for lack of better words. And as much as maybe I can say the reason why I decided to be a housewife is because I was still working. Like I was cooking for my husband. I was doing the cleaning. Like I was looking after my baby. I feel like that's not enough reason for a woman to just decide to be a housewife. And guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but honestly, I feel like that's not an enough reason for a woman to just decide to be a housewife, because there's so many things that you can do and still continue to raise up your kids and still continue to be a working woman. And I understand that some families, they normally have a policy that once you get married, once you get a kid, many husband, in African setup especially, they normally say that as long as I'm affording to pay all the bills, my woman cannot work. She should just remain at home and raise my kid, because I don't want my kids to be raised by house girls. Because there are just so many weird stories about house girls. But guys, I don't know. Can women here who are watching this content just comment in the comment section and let me know that, is getting married a certificate for you to just leave your career and to just surrender your career? Because there is that comfortability that comes with just being married. Because I am talking this out of experience. I remember when I was in a marriage setup, um, as much as I had my clean papers, it reached a point whereby I stopped even trying to look for employment. It's not like I didn't want to be employed, but they reached a point and I was just so much comfortable with everything that was going on in my life, because if I needed anything, my husband was providing. And I had those something that was pushing me that, Joyce, you need to wake up, and you need to look for something to do, you need to be empowered. No, I had nothing in mind that was going on like as a pressure, because basically everything was catered for. And that's the situation in our many of our married women. And it's funny when our women are not empowered and yet mortality rate in men still stands higher. That only means that it increases the risk of having many widows, many financially unstable widows who, after their husbands die, they will end up just asking everybody to help them. And guys, I'm hoping I'm not sounding rude, because I'm here to just raise an alarm that it's a high time for us women to just stand up and understand the fact that we need to be empowered. And guys, I think it's kind of a shame, because as I was telling you guys, the society have changed. The society have changed, and women are so much empowered outside here. Like each and every organization when you go, as much as maybe the ratio is not like 1-to-1, but the ratio is currently like increasing. Women are being considered for many big positions currently. And it's so much shameful that us as women, we are the same people who are killing our dreams. Like, as much as the government is trying to empower us, it's so much shameful that us as women, once we decide to get married, that's where we decide to, like, we kind of leave our career behind. I don't know what normally goes through the mind of a married woman. And I'm saying this with so much dignity because I was once there. And honestly, I don't know what was going through my mind back then. But there is that comfortability that comes with the fact that everything you need is going to be it's going to be catered for you. And so you feel like you don't have pressure to just do something more for you to earn a living. Plus, I remember I used to tell my mind that, you know what, even if I'm not doing something to help financially my husband, I'm cooking for him, like I'm giving bath, like I'm cleaning, like. But guys, is that an enough reason for a woman not to be empowered? Is that an enough reason for a woman to just surrender her career? Guys, maybe you can comment in the comment section. And honestly, guys, please don't come here with negativity. I'm not here to go against any African culture. I'm not here to go against any African culture. And actually, a lot of African culture nowadays, they are just so outdated, because if we say that a woman's place is back at home right now, we'll be saying something so wrong. Because unlike those time when our parents used to work at gardens, like our moms, if they are not going to be a career women, they were not going to school, so they were not like career women. So most of the time they were left behind, taking care of kettles, taking care of shambas, taking care of everything at home, and making sure that there is food on the table. Like they used to go to in shamba and cultivate, and they could bring food on the table, as much as they were not career women. But what's happening to our women here in town? Majority of women, especially these career women, guys, I want to be categorically about these career women. Once a woman is a career woman, you cannot just tell her that, you know what, after I have married you, I'm going to take you back to up country to be taking care of kettles, to be taking care of shamba, to be cultivating. Career women, once you marry them, they are not the women to take back to Ushago to do all that kind of whatever our moms used to do. But what are they doing? That only means that once a career woman get married, like I'm here to talk about majority of them. I'm not saying like it's 100% of women, but majority of career women, once they get married, because they cannot go back to land, to taking care of kettles and whatever, they end up being please allow me to use this term. I know it's not like the best term to use, but they end up being like a burden to the husbands. It's not like our husband are complaining. Please don't get me wrong, but they end up being like a burden to the husbands because now the husband is supposed to work for an extra income because there's an extra stomach that they have brought in the table. The women keep on giving birth, so they end up continuing to add and more burden, and they are not bringing any income on the table. So as much as the family keep on growing, the burdens in the men keep on growing. Like the men continue to being stressful. And guys, men have not complained. I'm just here to raise an alarm that it's high time to empower our women. And it's high time for our women to just stand up and remember, if you got married and you are a career woman, it's high time to let that stick in your head that your parents did not take you back, did not pay a lot of school fees for you to just be doing home house chores. Because unlike those ages when our parents used to work back at shambas, our women currently, once they get married and they cannot be taken back to shago, they end up being burdens. They end up being burdens because they only do normal house chores. Like they end up being like a house girl. And please don't get me wrong, I'm just saying this a lot of dignity. They end up being like house girls just because they don't bring anything on the table. And I don't know what normally happens with women, me being one of them. There is that comfortability that comes once you get married. And I want to state this with due respect that being married and the fact that your husband is currently affording to pay all your bills is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. And having a baby, like 3 babies, is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. Because our parent used to, as much as they were called a housewife, but that's not housewife. You cannot call me a housewife yet. Every morning I am in the shamba. Every morning I'm taking care of kettles. Our women back then, they were so hardworking. But currently, as career women, as long as we are not doing that white collar job, we end up just remaining indoors and being fed by our husbands. And I'm not here to say anything against the fact that maybe majority of our husbands can afford that and they are not complaining. But guys, it's good to always think to always ask yourself, what if you wake up tomorrow and that husband is no more there? Like I'm sorry to say, but I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that your husband is going to end up like to die tomorrow, but I'm just giving that awakening mind in our married women that what will happen in case, God forbid, like tomorrow your husband is not there. What will happen if tomorrow, like your breadwinner is not there? And you together with your 3 kids in the house, you have a house that's supposed to be paid rent, you have a house that you have kids that you are supposed to feed, to pay school fees. What will happen if tomorrow the table just turns? Or maybe what will happen if tomorrow your husband decides that you are no longer good for him and he wants to look for someone better? What will happen? After going through that data, it clicked in my mind that it's high time that we as women do everything and anything that we can to ensure that we are empowered, especially married women who are career women, to understand the fact that just because your husband can afford to pay your bills is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. Your mom took you to school. They empowered, like you're already empowered by your parents. That's not an enough reason to just be a housewife. The fact that maybe you have 3 kids is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. Our parents used to work at shambas and we were born like 10 of us, and they were never just there seated down. And I'm saying this with a lot of pain because I don't want tomorrow to like the rate of the widows to keep on increasing, because apparently like the widows that we have, not even in the society, like the widows that we have only in our churches, we can't afford to cater for their needs. And it's so shameful that many of the widows, there are just so many young girls. Like you see like a lady of 20 something years, 30, 40, they are widows, and they can't afford themselves, and so it's a burden. Please understand me, I'm not saying that it's a burden and you are not supposed to help them, but I feel like there's something that can be done to prevent that from happening. And that can only happen when us as women, we just decide to stand up and decide that, you know what, from now henceforth, regardless of the fact that my husband is able to pay all the bills, regardless of the fact that my husband is catering for school fees and everything, regardless of the fact that maybe I have 3 kids, regardless of anything, as long as I have my energy, as long as I have my mind, as long as I have my papers, it's high time for me to try and do something. And guys, I understand the fact that we cannot all of us fit in white collars job. I fully understand that. But the fact that you're not going to get a white collar job, also is not a ticket for you to just decide to be a housewife. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. That's not an enough reason for you to decide to be a housewife, because tomorrow is never promised. Like, you don't know what will happen tomorrow to your husband. And I'm not here to say that you are supposed to be empowered because definitely your husband is going to die earlier. No, God forbid. Actually, I want and I pray for our husband to God to give them a very long life. We just People just stay together in love and to have a long marriage life together. But tomorrow is never promised. As for our husband, once you as a woman you dies before your husband will not strain. They will end up marrying another woman who will come and raise those kids, because they can afford financially. Most of our husbands can afford that. But what happens to us once our husbands they die? We end up being left with a lot of unhealing. Like, you will never like heal in your entire life, because each and every time you are just you're just seeking for help, you're just looking for someone to help you, and that will keep on reminding you the fact that, your husband died. Like, what, you don't have a husband, but not because that you cannot heal from that, but just because now you have to spend your entire life asking for help. Guys, I feel like it's a high time for us as an African woman to just allow that African mindset to come out of our heads. Because I feel like, regardless of the fact that most of our women are so much, they are career women, like they have gone to campuses, they have their degrees, they have their masters, but still there is that element of an African woman in their heads, me included. There is still that African mindset that we still have in our head, that uh, a woman place is home. Like, as long as I'm an African woman, my place is just home, taking care of home, taking care of food, taking care of whatever, and just giving back. There is still that mindset in our heads, and that's what makes us feel so much comfortable once we get married. That's what make us not to push even harder. That's what make us to feel like, as long as I'm not going to get a white collar job, then let me just rest. Let my husband continue looking for everything, as I'm just seated here with remote watching the entire day and cooking for him and cleaning. Guys, I feel like it's high time, as women. Honestly, I feel like this has nothing to do with the government, and this has nothing to do with the institution, because as we speak right now, many institutions, they are ensuring that there is gender equality. Most of government positions, they are ensuring that there is gender equality. It's high time now we accept the fact that we should be empowered, because as much as there is so many things that have been done to empower us, that African mind in us is still clouding our minds to an extent that once we get married, we just feel so comfortable. Like, we just feel comfortable. And I understand that getting job is not an easy thing. I fully understand that, but that does not explain the fact that now you should be a housewife. There is so many things that someone can just do and earn a living. You don't have to fit in the offices, like, and you don't have to say that you have a kid now and my husband is affording, like, the fact that your husband is affording everything is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. The fact that you have 3 kids, 4, 5 kids is not a ticket for you to be a housewife. Is not a ticket. I don't know how I'm saying this with capital letter actually. It's not a ticket for you to be a housewife. And guys, I'm hoping like you guys are understanding me the way I feel it in my heart. I'm not here to be against anything. I'm just here to emphasize on the need of empowering our women. And as women, I'm just here to emphasize on the need of us standing out and deciding that it's high time for us to be empowered. It's high time for us to be empowered. I know majority of our husbands can pay for our bills. Majority of them can do that so easily without even struggling. A majority of our husband can pay for our school fees, can pay for and they can afford to give us good life. But guys, it would hurt if you have two stable parents. Like, it won't hurt. Actually, it will be more advantageous. Like, I can imagine my life if when I was being brought up, like if my mom was stable financially and like both my parents were stable financially. Do you imagine how good it is when you just call your mom, like, oh, you know what, mommy, I need this and this and this, and then she just sort you out, or maybe she just tell you, like, can you call your dad, or maybe vice versa. When you just call your dad and, oh, dad, I need this and this, and then he just tells you that, please kindly call your mom, and then you call your mom, and then your mom sorts you out. Can you imagine how sweet that is? Like, it's so sweet. Even when I'm talking about it, I feel like it's just so sweet, guys. And I want to say this with a lot of dignity and with a lot of respect. Married career women, those people who are feeling so much comfortable just because our husbands can afford our life, kindly, it's our high time to say that African mind in us is high time we just pluck it out of our mind and decide to just step up and know that we can do better. Like, honestly, we can do better. And the fact that we have kids is not a ticket for us to be housewives. And the fact that our husbands are working day and night to just afford our lives is not a ticket for us to be housewives. It's high time we help our husbands and we do everything to just make sure that we are empowered as women. Because, guys, tomorrow is never promised. Honestly, tomorrow is never promised. The mortality rate was just so scary to me, and I didn't expect to see such kind of data. And I'm praying that all those married women, they just live longer together with their husbands, because I cannot imagine the pain that normally go through the minds of women who are left as widows and they are left with nothing, and so they end up the entire life just begging to be supported, begging for their kids to be, to their school fees to be paid, for their rent to be paid, for food, even to afford just food and shelter. It's just begging. We don't want that for our tomorrow. We don't want that. Like, I don't want that for tomorrow. And so, if you are a married woman, please, you don't know what will happen tomorrow. So kindly, can you just make sure that you are empowered? You career woman, like, you have so many documents, you have degrees, you have certificates, and they're just lying there, doing nothing with them. And if that's not working, then can you just find something to just do to make sure that you are earning an income? Because there is so many things that people can do. You don't have to just do the white collar job. You can decide to be a mama mboga. As long as you are making something, you are making an income. You can decide to do business, and you can decide to do e-commerce. You can decide to do just so many things. But I think it's high time for that comfortability mind that clouds our minds once we get married. It's a high time that it leaves us. I'm even praying to God that just leave us, because in the long run, we are just going to end up just going to be painful for us when our husbands maybe decides to leave us after we separate, after they die. It's normally a very hard time, and I'm just praying that no woman should go through that route. But in case you have to go that route, can you just be prepared? Can you just be prepared and make sure you are empowered. Make sure you are doing something to earn an income. And regardless of the fact that you have small babies, that should not be a ticket for you to be a housewife. Because even if you have that small baby, what will happen tomorrow if your husband is not there? And you still have that small baby, the small baby still need to be fed. So it's high time for us women to stand up and do something to make sure that we are being empowered. And guys, thank you for watching until the end. Please continue subscribing. I did meant to make this a long video, but honestly it's a very disturbing thing in my mind. And I think it hit me so hard because I am a woman. And it hit me so much to just think that maybe one day I can just wake up and I'm not able to raise my kid. I'm not able to raise my kids. And it was something that really it worried me. And I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to speak this and to just act as like an eye opener to many women outside there, to just know that it's okay. Your husband is affording your life. Like, it's okay. And we thank God for that. And actually, we pray the long life for your husband and God to bless her abundantly to continue affording your life. But please, can you do something to help your husband? If not helping yourself, can you do something? Like, how can you just be sitting the entire day watching, I don't know, if not Afro cinema, I don't know what they calls them. Like, that should not be happening, honestly. That should not be happening. As much as the husband is affording everything, like, that should not be happening. And I'm not saying that husbands are complaining. I'm not here like to talk about whatever goes through in the mind of husband, but I'm here because tomorrow is not promised. Like, tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow your husband can decide to leave you. Tomorrow your husband can decide to divorce you. Tomorrow your husband can decide, can just, something can just happen and your husband is no longer there in your life, and you will continue living together with your kids. And so it's high time you just wake up. And this video was just meant to be like a wake up call to us as women, me being one of them. And guys, thank you for watching until the end. Please continue subscribing, please continue commenting. And if you are a married woman, kindly just wake up and know that this is not like a time for moms where they used to have big lands, and so if the husband died, so they still have a land where they can cultivate and still continue living. Right now, career woman who you are staying in towns, once your husband who was a breadwinner dies, or maybe once your husband who was a breadwinner is no longer in your life, you have bills to pay, you have rents to pay, you have school fees to pay. And school fees nowadays is just like at the next hell. You have school fees to pay, and you have so many things to pay, and your dignity, you still want to maintain your dignity. So kindly, when you still have time, make sure that you are being empowered. And you don't have to have that white collar job. Just make sure that you are doing anything available for you to just earn a living, because tomorrow is never promised. And guys, I don't want to make a lengthy video more than that. So bye bye. I love you. Peace out.